clients are very, I keep them close to the chest just because, they could go to somebody else anytime they want. So I want to continue to make sure I do the best service for them.
All right, welcome to episode 2 of the podcast that doesn't necessarily have a proper name, but we know that it's something that needs to be done. I'm not actually going to be the host, but I am the host of this particular episode. Adam is actually going to be the future host.
And I do have a good name for the podcast.
Oh, really? What? Just go off the top of the dome. What do you have?
So we've been doing a lot of branding of Believe in Your Office.
Yeah.
So that could just be the name of the podcast. Believe in
Well,
Your Office.
well, guess what? That's exactly what Josh said. So,
Get out.
yeah, swear. You can, it's recorded. I'll show it to you afterwards. That's exactly what he said. So,
How about that?
I feel like it has to be a part of the brand, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just ingrained in our culture here. That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely is. So, Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To your show.
Yeah.
Before we begin, I personally like to kind of start every podcast on like a fun way. So I'm gonna do like what I'm calling as a fast five, where I'm just gonna ask you 5 fast questions, and you just come with the first thing that pops in your head. Or if you want to go on a small little tangent, by all means, you could do that too. Boy. So I've known you for quite some time.
Long time.
Yeah, and we've never actually had like an intimate conversation as much as we are right now. But I know you have an illustrious career of meeting people and networking and things like that. So throughout your course of history, how many dinners or coffee meetings do you think that you've had over the course of your career?
Wow. That's a good question. I want to be I'm very analytical by nature. So I'm going to put an extra couple of seconds of thought in this. I'm going to say, hold on here. I'm going to really geek out.
Are you pulling a calculator out?
I am.
Well, yeah. Guess what? That's exactly what Josh did. So
let's see.
So he calculated basically three coffee/dinners per week for over 20 years.
So if we're sticking with, what's funny is because I already typed 52 times 3.
Nice.
And then I was going to say, all right, I'm going to say about a little over 3,000. That's insane. Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
Wow. And crazy.
And if you go in, if you want to be even more analytical, so the number that I have right here, if you do the actual math, is 3,120. And if you times that by, let's just say an average dinner with at least one person is going to be, especially nowadays, at least 75 to $100. Yeah. So let's just call it 99, just for the sake of this conversation. Over the course of your career, you spent over $308,000 on. You can do a lot of things with that.
Glad I was. You know what though? If you look at it over a course of a career, that is a small drop in the bucket out of compared to the relationships and referrals and projects that have come from it. So it as a flat number, that seems wild. But then if you think of how much revenue was generated off of that, well worth it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the idea would be that you'd have to, at the very least, 10x that. And I feel pretty confident that you're surpassed, or if not on your way to doing just that.
Yeah, it's accurate assessment.
Oh yeah, you definitely 10x that. So with that, so question number 2, I know that you're in the South Jersey, Philadelphia, region. Is there like a go-to place that you would ultimately always take a particular person to a networking event, or to network with? Excuse me.
Like a lunch or a dinner or something like that.
Yeah, like what's like the go-to spot?
So, in a matter of time and ease, I try to schedule everything equidistant to wherever the referral partner or somebody I'm trying to meet with. That way it doesn't take a huge chunk out of either person's day. What I've been doing a lot of lately is going to like Haddonfield or Collingswood, right? Because it's not that far from our office. And if people are from South Jersey, actually, I take a lot of people to the poorhouse. It's simple. Everybody can find something there. It's Buck a Shuck Wednesdays, so you could get if you're down with oysters. But typically that's my go-to spot where most people don't mind going. Second in line is Tommy's Tap House and Tavern. That's another really good spot.
Mm.
Just because they have literally everything from wings to burgers to sushi on their menu, and
Interesting.
yeah, it's not bad at all. But those are probably the two. I try to really limit myself to lunches now. With with kids' schedules, evenings tend to get a little logistically crazy. I try to sprinkle in wherever I can from a networking meeting here or there, but a lot of my stuff now is either over coffee or lunchtime stuff.
Well, you brought up the one of my favorite words, which is kids and children. Obviously, as a new father myself, this isn't really like this. We're like diving a little bit deeper than just the Fast
Yeah,
Five, just because it's we can say whatever the hell we want and we don't have rules.
yeah.
So kids, as a professional yourself and as a father, how do you navigate fatherhood in addition to being a professional business professional at this point?
Got to live and die by your calendar.
Yeah.
That is the main thing. I have my entire life is unintentionally but intentionally scheduled out
Yep.
on my Outlook calendar, where every family event or doctor's appointment, thankfully my wife takes them to most of that, but mainly sports practices or whatever needs to get done, that all gets dropped in on the calendar so I could figure out, make sure everybody has a time to get to where they need to be, that I stay on top of all of my appointments. And I try to be pretty present if, sales is 24/7. So I try to stay on top of it as much as I can. However, in the time blocks where I don't have something work scheduled or there is something for the kids, to be as present as possible during that, because as far as they know, dad just goes to work and he comes home, and it's important in my perspective just to be present when you're home with them and directly engage and not seem like you're rushed to get them from point A to point B, because they don't know why they're being rushed. So that could totally disrupt their entire life and existence, and throw them off in a bad mood or whatever it may be. So try to be very mindful of scheduling the time. And it seems pretty cold, but schedule time for your kids. But being a dad is literally my favorite thing in the entire world. So I prioritize being in their life and as present as much as possible. And when I'm there, it's quality time, not just physically being there. So the calendar has absolutely helped me figure out how to do that.
Yeah, definitely would agree with that. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
actually a little bit more curious about the structure of like where you were many years ago when I first met you to where you are now, and how you approach business meetings and how you approach your time. I would assume that in the very beginnings of career, my question really aligns to, if you were to give somebody some advice and they're just starting out in the networking events in the space of networking, what are some ultimate tips that you would provide to a particular individual to make these connections? Because Boomerang and all the entities associated rely heavily on people, right? It relies heavily on networking and connections and things like that. And in the very beginning of my career, I took every meeting known to man. But
Yep.
now I'm like super selective of who I talk to. And like
Sure.
you have to go through 17 different filters in order to get to talk to me, even for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like where do you feel like you were, how did you get to where you are now when it comes to the networking cycles and filters?
That's a great question. I guess knowing there's no harm in meeting and getting along with good people at networking events. However, making the best use of your time and what events you go. I mean, there's plenty of events that I've gone to in the past where I've gone, spent, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then after that, I'm like, you know what? This event isn't for me. And recognizing that and, just having the wherewithal or, I guess, situational awareness to pull yourself out of it instead of staying 2-3 hours at one of those events where you're not going to get anything of it. And maybe you could have, gone home and spent some quality time there. Or have gone to other events where you go in and realize like, wow, these are a lot of people that I want to get and connect with. And it's from a knowing who you want to connect with that kind of just takes time, because it is based off a relationship. I never go into an event or looking. In my entirety, I've never gone into an event looking to sell somebody something. Everyone there I see as potential long-term relationships that it's not a one-time sale. It would be more of a become a trusted partner, that through the entirety of that person's career, if something were to come up, they would feel safe in recommending myself and Boomerang for an opportunity, knowing based off of character and building a relationship with that type of person. And I try to be selective in the industries that I network with as a result, where I can then refer out people to those people, kind of like a go-giver relationship. I try to meet with people that I can help. And if they help me as a byproduct, that's a great, that's a long-term goal, but I never go into expecting what can I get out of this person. It's always typically industry aligned as well. So in, whatever field you're in, whatever verticals or similar trades that you would see on projects. So for examples with us, general contractors, electricians, low voltage data, IT, internet, those type of individuals that are needed on every single type of project that we would come across. Networking with those type of individuals so that when I do come have an opportunity and I could ask, the potential client, who are you using for X? Who are you using for Y? I try to give out more referrals than I would get in, because I have a firm belief, and I think my dad probably ingrained it in me at this point, that outflow equals inflow. So no matter where you're sending it out, outflowing help or positivity, it'll always come back to you in one way or another. So in approaching, I think I completely derailed like we were talking about, but approaching networking, it's I never go into it in what can I get out of it, is go in and say, hey, this person would be good for me to help. And those are the type of people that I end up connecting with and forming long-term relationships, because it's built off of, a help action instead of like a want, like what can they give me type of thing. And that's kind of the general approach. And then with it, I always try to, going to the 3,120 or whatever it was, lunches, coffees, the networking is always like an initial meet and greet. And if I build a rapport with the person, then I always try to always then stay in touch with the person over a coffee or a phone call even, and just touch base with them so that it's too easy to keep moving on, in your day to day, and lose track of, the relationships that you've built as you continue to add more in. So I always am pretty mindful of being proactive at prolonging those relationships, and then they just kind of build from there.
Yeah, I actually, so we have the foundation of a partner, right? And I think one of the hardest things, at least even in my career now, of what I'm doing, it's always hard to have. It's easy to obtain partners, and it's easy to get people to like you, but then
Yeah,
it's really difficult to actually get them to refer you. And I think
totally.
the referring aspect is providing the value that you could to, that you can deliver that warrants them to actually refer you. So like if you could offer some tips or advice on how to ultimately cultivate a relationship where it's not just one-sided where you're asking for business but you're growing it over and over again, like what would you recommend to people to cultivate partnerships and relationships?
Um, that's a great question. I've always gone with trying to help the individual first, and show that you have a vested interest in helping that individual. Um, and as a result, it kind of comes back. I take the proactive approach of trying to help other people first.
Mm,
That's always kind of been a successful action. And then as a byproduct, if so, for example, if you and I just met at a networking event, Jonathan, and you tell me, just if our industries are aligned and say, I'm like, wow, okay, I could really help Jonathan. Um, I want to become a partner with him because we are looking at similar type of projects. I'm sure there's opportunities that he sees that I don't see. How do I get him long term to have a mutual relationship? So if I have a project or come across something and send it to you and like, hey, John, great meeting you. Hey, I just came across an opportunity that I think would really benefit you. Would you mind if I connected you with X, Y, and Z? Um, and natural human reaction would be to reciprocate in some manner.
hmm
So the next that would then put your, on alert to be like, oh wow, that was really great of Adam. What can I do to help him out? He didn't have to help me and he went out of his way. I want to do the same. And then as it kind of fast tracks the referral relationship because you're actively trying to help the other individual.
hmm
And that has then built let's say, and I'm a firm believer, clients are very, I keep them close to the chest just because, they could go to somebody else anytime they want. So I want to continue to make sure I do the best service for them and make sure they do the right by them. And if I refer them out to you and or vice versa, and I'm sure it's like that with everyone, if then you deliver above and beyond what expectations are, it makes the referring person's life a lot easier where it takes it off their plate and say, hey, you know what, if you need help with furniture, send, I got a guy, he'll take care of it for you. And then as a result, your client then continues to trust you because you send them a good vendor. And then by doing the right thing by them, it just makes everybody look good. So um, with the relationships, my circling back there, my successful action is always to help first, and help the other person, and then as a result, good things kind of flow from there on a long term basis.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It might take a little bit longer, but I think if you do it so much that it naturally, like, it may not come from this person right now. It could take a year for them to do it.
Yeah.
But by doing it so much and so often and being helpful, you're always getting a flow of new
It's
people
it's
coming in, even when you
it's
least
it's
expect it.
always a flow, and the more partners you could have by doing that, and that's why I say I try to find people within the industries and not have many overlap, because they are trusted partners, that I've built relationships with. Um, but it becomes a steady stream of, all right, let's say these 20, 30 people don't have an opportunity in their world. Maybe these 10 do.
Mm.
And as a result, it just kind of becomes a machine as long as you always do the right thing by everybody. And that's what keeps referrals coming back.
Love it. I actually want to switch gears very briefly because I think even though partnerships and everything else like that is very, very important when it comes to just
Yeah.
building a business, but at the same time, you can't have any of that unless you have a business. You can't have any of that unless you have an office. So
Yeah.
I want to ask this foundational question, and I'll continue to go a little bit deeper into this. But if you were to have a blank slate, let's just say 10,000 square feet rectangle, right? What are like the main things that you think are a necessity in building an office that you need to have, or how would you more or less go about helping a client identify the things that they need?
Um, the very first question that I always ask clients, because I get brought into this situation frequently, is I always ask what the culture is.
Mm,
What type of culture do you currently have with your company? And every company is different, and that's why I've really thoroughly enjoyed what I do. Is everyone generates revenue, but no company is the same. Everyone does it differently.
yeah.
If To me, the whole purpose of having an office is a place to get, I mean, now people could, some could work at home or whatever it is. The whole purpose, in my opinion, to have an office is to get people together.
Mm,
So a collaboration space, a place to want to draw people back into the office is a huge component and something that needs to be done to entice people to come in.
yep.
It's interesting, with the up and coming workforce where um, the idea of trying to have people to come to a place of work or apply at a place where they have to come into the office is not how. I mean, previously everyone had to come in. So finding a way to entice people to want to come in um, is step one. From there, off whether it's offices or workstations or whatever it is, that's the productivity part of it all. But some area where people can gather and be together, and whether a lot of offices are doing even like just entertainment, uh, like you know, shuffleboard tables or just anything. Some at least section of the building needs to have a place where people can gather and be together and build relationships. And a lot of good things happen when people are even just in a space, not necessarily working, but talking about work, and then ideas start flowing left and right, and that's ultimately beneficial for the business in itself.
So, Josh actually brought up the word culture, and I think culture could be defined in multiple different ways. But like, what do you think is like good company culture? And I'll kind of preface while you think about the answer to this question. I have
Yeah,
a family member who works in a tech startup, gets free food, gets money towards groceries, all of their gym memberships are pretty much like accounted for and paid for and stuff like that. Like to me, that isn't necessarily company culture, right?
I agree.
That's just buying off your people to maintain happiness and because you can. So like if you were to what is culture to you that you're describing when you talk about culture?
Yeah. See, in my vision with culture, or the culture of a company, it's where everyone has a common goal, and they collectively support and work with each other to achieve that goal.
Yep.
And it's very much and that's what we have here. And I think a lot of successful companies have that. It's where there's a sense of camaraderie, and it's not monetary or, hey, I'll give you X, Y, and Z if you come to work for me. It's more of a place where people enjoy working.
Mm,
And I could speak for at least our staff here. I mean, almost everyone, barring a few new hires, have been here for over 10 years, which
mm,
is wild. But and I look at other people like, oh, Monday I gotta go in the office. I don't like, oh, case of the Mondays. I've never had that. Like, I thoroughly enjoy doing what I do,
mm.
and the staff here thoroughly enjoys doing what they do, where it's not an extension of work and life. Like, okay, this is where you come, you know, while you're working, but there's no, it's not like an arduous task. Like everyone thoroughly enjoys, and it's because it's pleasant, it's lighthearted. Everyone jokes around with each. It's very, while we're doing, whatever task it is, whether our design team's designing or accounting is processing. Like everyone just thoroughly enjoys each other, and that's kind of what I mean with culture is a place to bring everyone together so that they could collectively work on a common goal for the greater good. And the greater good, the better the company does, the better the employees do. And it's very much an environment in which everyone can be successful or just thoroughly enjoy. So that's kind of what I mean when it means culture is it becomes almost an extension of your family, if you will.
Yeah. No, it's again, it's interesting going back to the original statement of like Josh said something similar. What I find really, what I find interesting about talking to the two of you within relatively short periods of time within each other is the synergy that the two of you guys have together, which very much so aligned with company vision, company goals, but at the same time aligned with what is most important to a business and to a team. And it is ultimately synergy because you had no idea what he said and he has no idea what you're saying. But however, the synergy between the two of you are very much so aligned with
even the name of the podcast.
Even the name of the podcast.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's like, it's funny, like outsider looking in, it's really cool to be able to see and work with you guys for as long as I have to, be able to see a little bit more about that. So it's like really cool from my perspective as well.
Yeah.
You only have
a couple, we're doing something right then.
Yeah. That was kind of the point. Exactly right. You guys are definitely doing something right, and I can't wait to see what happens next with the future expansions of the company and things like that. I kind of want to just like end it with just like one other question, and I think it's important because the future of work is vastly changing. You have remote work, you have hybrid work, you have my wife goes in 3 days a week. I work 100% from home. Different businesses, of course. She works for a great institution. But what do you think is the perfect balance of work life balance, and what is the perfect recipe for in office work? Like where do you fit in that regard? So what is the future of work?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's definitely different jobs, different industries that you don't have to be in the office. You have your schedule or type of workflow or type of industry. You can be 100% remote. You can be a hybrid schedule. In my personal opinion, I think we kind of have a really good schedule here, and I am probably biased to it, but year round. And let me start off by saying, so that's our sales, or our sales staff is a little bit different, as we set our schedules and we're never really required to be anywhere as long as we're doing what we need to be doing. With that said, I like it here. So I, physically in the office when I'm not on an appointment or, walking a space or networking, I like to just come here because I enjoy the people that I'm around. But I do think the future does have a little bit more of a work-life balance. And our schedule, except for, when the holidays fall in or anything, we're Monday through Thursday in the office and then half day Fridays. And then at noon on Fridays, you come and go and do whatever you want. And it kind of really starts your weekend. And it's almost like and Fridays are kind of just clean up days and do what you need to do. And you're very lighthearted. And it makes us work a little bit harder during the rest of the week. But I remember when telling someone that I was like, oh yeah, our staff has half day Fridays. And I'm like, oh, just during the summer? I was like, no, year round. They're like, that's incredible. And that just a little bit of extra free time to do what you need to do and enjoy time outside of here makes you kind of dig your heels in a little bit for the rest of the time that you are here during the week. And like I said, the staff enjoys being here the rest of the week. So it's a win-win. But that's kind of where I foresee the future going, is pulling people back in more, depending on, again, what department, what type of company, and then carving out a little bit more free time so that they can come and go and do what they want to do. That's kind of how I feel. And what I see, companies are definitely doing a little bit more of that. But again, I could be biased, but I think our office schedule is ideal.
You've been listening to Boom Podcast, proudly brought to you by Boomerang Office Furniture. If you're looking to upgrade your workspace with ergonomic chairs, sleek desks, or smart office solutions, we invite you to explore our full range at boomerangofficefurniture.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to catch our next episode. Until then, stay inspired, stay productive.